Some interesting new developments on the Biden administration's decision to sanction Russian officials, especially high-level ones in the Kremlin, after the poisoning of Alexei Navalny. He's an opposition politician. Ryan, you very quickly took notice, I think a lot of people did here, in the difference of treatment of the way the Biden administration is using sanctions against Russia and top-level FSB officials and their decision to not sanction MBS. So just break down exactly what's happening here and what some of the general reaction is.
Right. And so it happened right around the same time that the U.S. government put out its own findings, both related to Navalny and to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. And in both cases found that that Mohammed bin Salman in Khashoggi's case and Putin in Russia's case were responsible for the attempted killing of Navalny and for the actual killing of Khashoggi. Now, when it came to Saudi Arabia, the hit squad, the death squad members were sanctioned. A person close to MBS was sanctioned. But when it came to Russia, I think 7 key figures, top figures around Putin were sanctioned. But this exposes a kind of a fundamental contradiction in how the Biden administration is treating Saudi Arabia. Biden insisted on speaking with the king of Saudi Arabia, who has been sidelined by the crown prince, Mohammed bin Salman, and said that MBS is not the leader of Saudi Arabia. And so therefore, I will be speaking with the king. And this was a consequence. This was a punishment to Saudi Arabia for not just Khashoggi, but for a lot of what it had done over the past four years. But then in defending why the U.S. had not sanctioned bin Salman after finding that he had approved of the killing of Khashoggi, they said, well, he's the leader of Saudi Arabia and the U.S. does not sanction the leaders of foreign countries, even ones that we're not allied with, which is not true. They have sanctioned a number of leaders. Right. That's just a lie. Right. But let's say that what they meant was that they don't sanction the leaders of allied countries. You just said days earlier that MBS is not the actual leader of the country, and that as a punishment for the way that Saudi Arabia has operated the last 4 years, that he will not be treated as such. And then days later, you treat him as such. So it reflects the way that that Biden is trying to figure out how the U.S. is going to engage with Saudi Arabia, while on the one hand calling them a pariah during the campaign and saying that we need to reset the relationship, and on the other hand, being driven by the inertia of the U.S.-Saudi relationship over all of these years.
Yeah, and Ryan, you pointed this out. Ilhan Omar, she's releasing some new legislation. Let's throw a tweet up there first on the screen. Every minute MBS escapes punishment is a moment U.S. interests, human rights, and the lives of Saudi dissenters are at risk. She's introducing legislation to place sanctions on the Crown Prince. Let's throw her legislation up there as well. So what are some of the details here? And let's be real. Does it have a chance? One of the good things I have always noticed is that Congress, in some highly limited cases, has been willing to buck the administration, Obama and Trump, in both cases, in going after Saudi Arabia. They made it legal to sue the Saudi government for 9/11 under Obama, famously. I think it was 98-0 or something in the U.S. Senate. And the administration still vetoed it under Trump. Same thing, much happened with the Yemen and some of the U.S. military assistance to the Saudi military and what was happening there. Will this one go anywhere? Because Republicans and Democrats alike were generally outraged by the administration's coddling of MBS then.
It certainly could go somewhere. As you've said, Saudi Arabia has really lost Congress. It has not quite lost the executive branch, right. Either the last one or this one. But on Congress, it's night and day with how Saudi Arabia was treated a few years ago to how it's treated now, and the assassination and butchering of Khashoggi is a significant part of that. One reflection of that is that Omar's is not the only bill out there to sanction MBS. Hers is the strongest one. Hers is the one that ought to be the focus of everybody's organizing and support. But the fact that there are others out there that are weaker, shows that there is a broad desire in Congress to do something toward to respond to this, because otherwise you set the precedent that a foreign leader can assassinate an American journalist, he wasn't an American yet, but he was an American resident. He was writing for the Washington Post, can assassinate him, that the intelligence agency can put out a report saying that we know that he ordered this hit, and that there will be no serious consequences. That creates a much dangerous world for everyone. And so Congress is certainly going to try to push back on this. The question of whether they can get a majority support for it remains to be seen, but it's certainly within the realm of possibility.
Here's one thing I haven't really understood, Ryan. These people talked a big game. You and I both saw it. You know, the Biden people, not just him, the entire foreign policy apparatus around him. They've been on Twitter for the last 4 years being like, Trump on this, Trump on that. And on Saudi Arabia, almost all of the people working for him have expressed outrage at the Khashoggi situation. How is it? You know, you have somebody like Tony Blinken, who talked a big game about human rights, talked about Khashoggi, many of the other people who are in the State Department, in the White House, Susan Rice, all of them. And then they get into administration and they do the exact same thing as Trump. Are they just shameless? Are they, going to make apologies, be like, well, if you knew the real thing, like we did? What is going on there? That's the part I think that is just mind-bending for everyone.
Yeah, managing the empire is different than criticizing it as an opposition party. And the U.S.-Saudi relationship has been central to the American imperial project, since the 1940s and 50s. And when they get back into a management position of this imperial project, it just becomes extraordinarily difficult for them internally to break with the mindset that has driven that project from the very beginning. Even as you have so many people throughout the administration and outside of it in these kind of elite foreign policy circles who can make very cogent and coherent arguments for why it's not even beneficial to the imperial project anymore. You could say, okay, even if we support everything that we've stood for from the 1940s and 50s on, it's not actually furthering our interests anymore. But the momentum of those decades, continues to guide the project, and the amount of money that is flowing around these circles is a significant part of it as well.
Yeah, I think, we just can't discount that. But that's the part I think that really screws with people, is whenever you see something like this, when you see the exact people who criticize the very same policy, then enact that policy, you begin to understand how somebody can be elected 3 separate times in order to withdraw from Afghanistan and it doesn't actually happen. They're like, oh, well, once you're in the chair, then it's different considerations. And people just keep getting lied to over and over and over again, and it really is just mystifying. Ryan, thank you for joining us, man. Really appreciate your insight. It's a great topic that you picked here. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.
Absolutely. Coming up, Michael Starr Hopkins and Marshall Kossoff. They're joining for Team Rising. That's next.